Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94, here back with another reaction video. Today, we finna react to why the 2006 Miami Heat were not able to repeat. Cause Dwayne Wade dislocated his shoulder, and was crying like a little bitch in a wheelchair. I think that's why Shaq was pretty much done. Shaq's knees were pretty much done at that point. And that team just wasn't. That team was just old. Like, let's be real, that team was just old. They were beat up. They couldn't do it again. That's why they got swept by the goddamn Chicago Bulls in the first. How you get swept by the Chicago Bulls with Ben Wallace in the first round? Lord have mercy. I took my Dwayne Wade shoes off. I took my Dwayne Wade jersey off. I ain't wear that bitch all summer. I was embarrassed.
Now, are you going to foul? Terry puts it up. Won't go. Rebound Wade. The Miami Heat, they've done it. They win their first championship in franchise history.
Such a good moment, though.
In 2006, the Miami Heat shocked the entire world, coming back from a 2-0 deficit in the finals to win 4 straight and take home their first ever championship in the history of their franchise. Their entire run to the title was as surprising as it was breathtaking. A one-man wrecking machine, Dwayne Wade, who had one of the greatest finals performances of all time, with a touch of controversy sprinkled on top. However, as quickly as the 2006 Heat rose into prominence, they vanished into irrelevance just as quick. They became the first defending champions ever to get swept in the first round in the following season.
Damn.
In fact, after their title, the Heat could not make it past the first round in any season until the arrival of LeBron James. How did that happen? How did a team who reached the top of the world in 2006, led by a 24-year-old superstar, fall off so quickly and drastically, from contenders to a perennial first-round exit? How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today let's take a detailed look at why the 2006 Miami Heat could not repeat and win another title. Not only that, but how did they become so mediocre afterwards? Let's get started. One thing that most folks aren't aware of is the Heat essentially kept the same exact roster, with their main core of players still here and still trying to aim for back-to-back titles. It's not like they made any huge roster changes that didn't work, their guys were still here. However, there were several obstacles in the way that prevented the Heat from repeating. For one, their team was very old. They were the second oldest team in the league the year they won the title, with an average age of 29.2. Shaq, Gary Payton, and Alonzo Mourning were pushing into their mid to late 30s. And that's about time when players severely regress, which they all did, and it wasn't pretty. With a roster built like this, it's obvious the Heat had a very short window to contend. Most importantly, however, a major shoulder and knee injury to Dwayne Wade resulted in a tumultuous regular season, where the Heat were struggling to maintain a winning record. Wade missed 31 games, and O'Neal missed 42 games with an injury of his own. The Heat finished with only 44 wins, and Wade's lingering injury problems carried over into the first round of the postseason, where they fell to the Bulls in an unspectacular 4-game sweep.
The white flag of surrender and also the acknowledgement of these great players, and their championship defense comes to an end.
Sadly, this was an early sign of Wade's injuries that would haunt him in the years following his championship. In particular, his recurring knee problems that made even Kawhi Leonard's knees look serviceable. Shortly after the Heat got swept, Wade went through 2 separate surgeries, the first one to repair his shoulder, the second to repair his left knee. And while his shoulder successfully healed to maximum strength, it was that left knee in particular that put a ceiling on his potential. The same knee in which, a long time ago, when Wade played at Marquette, he got surgery to remove the meniscus. At the time, when he was in college, Wade made this decision to remove his meniscus as a short-term solution, to help him get drafted and come back faster. But this decision haunted him for the rest of his career. As he stated, "My knee problems and the things I've dealt with started from that. At that time, it was to get me back on the basketball court and do what is best. The technology was different, and the way you approach things were different." So why does all this information matter? Well, it's because Wade's ongoing knee problems during the prime of his career were the #1 reason why the Heat could never make another deep playoff run. In 3 of those 4 years, they got knocked out in the first round. In 2008, they won an astonishingly low 15 games.
That was crazy.
Just 2 years after their championship, they slid into the worst record in the entire league. Wade missed 31 games in both of the next 2 seasons after he won the title, and
That was a crazy season, though. That 2008 season was crazy. To see the Heat only win like 15 games, and then they traded Shaq on top of that, I was like, yeah, the Heat washed, bro. My Miami Heat jersey was deep in the closet, was deep in the back of my closet. I wasn't even looking at it at this time.
his absence led to the Heat's struggle to stay afloat, while the rest of the roster crumbled around him. The 2006 Miami Heat were unique in many ways. For one, it greatly paralleled the 2011 Dallas Mavericks. Both teams were assembled with older veterans who knew it was their last chance to win the title, so they were more motivated than they've ever been before. For the Mavs, it was Jason Kidd, Shawn Marion, Jason Terry, and of course, Dirk. For the 06 Heat, it was Alonzo Mourning, Gary Payton, Antoine Walker, and Jason Williams. All of them highly accomplished veterans with illustrious careers, but no title to show for it. They were hungry and desperate to win their first ring. Not just that, but many of these vets have dealt with plenty of doubters and critics over the years, and they sought to change that. For example, Alonzo Mourning came back from a kidney transplant, and nobody thought he'd ever step foot on the NBA court again. Yet, he did. Then there was Jason Williams, White Chocolate, a highly talented point guard with an erratic reputation. He got fined several times for bad behavior and got accused of not caring about winning and just getting his own numbers. Gary Payton, at 37 years old, needed to redeem himself after so many chances. Antoine Walker had the reputation for being the biggest chucker the league has ever seen. The man who gave an infamous answer to the question of, "Why do you shoot so many threes?" In which Walker responded, "Because there ain't no fours." Nobody thought his playstyle could ever lead to a championship, and that's why Boston gave up on him. Of course, there was also the big Aristotle. Shaquille O'Neal left the Lakers with bad blood, and the feud with Kobe was still on his mind. Reporters cited his lack of effort and being out of shape held him back, but his desire to win more championships than Kobe fueled his effort in Miami, as he used up everything he had left in the tank. All of these guys had a chip on their shoulder. They were playing for not just themselves, but against all the doubters who blasted them over the years. The Heat were also on a revenge tour. In the previous playoffs, they were one game away from the finals, but due to Dwayne Wade's injury, they got eliminated by the Pistons. The players wanted to come back and capture what they believed should have been theirs. So, after they successfully did that and won the title, everyone's motivation was gone. And along with it, the franchise's hope to repeat and win again. Now, fast forward to the 2008-09 season, and it was a monumental year in many ways. After winning an abysmal 15 games in the previous season and blowing up most of their roster that won the title, it was a fresh new beginning for a franchise yearning to get back to the promised land. It started with the resignation of Pat Riley, who stepped down as the head coach, which gave way to his disciple to take over, a young basketball genius named Erik Spoelstra. At the time of his hiring, Spoelstra became the youngest head coach in the league. It was very fitting for a team that's trying to move on from their old, washed-up players to start focusing more on developing their youth, and what better way to grow than alongside a young coach as well. More impressively, this was widely regarded to be Dwayne Wade's greatest individual season ever.
Facts.
He led the league in scoring. He averaged
Definitely had a strong case for the MVP. Definitely had a strong case for the MVP, but you already know. Bullshit and politics gonna always reign supreme. You knew they was gonna get that to LeBron. And I get it. LeBron had the #1 seed. Wade was like, what, 6 or like 5 or 6? Miami Heat was like 5 or 6 that year. But still, though, impressive numbers. 30 points, led the league in scoring, almost 8 assists, 2 steals, 1.3 block. That's damn near defensive player of the year stats. If we being honest, on 49%, that's crazy, bro. That's definitely in consideration for MVP. But I digress. Most definitely, this was Dwayne Wade's best single season by himself as a member of the Heat. Because around this time, what he had a young Mario Chalmers, Michael Beasley. He had a very young team and took them all the way to the playoffs. And they almost could have got past the Atlanta Hawks, but wasn't meant to be.
the most points and most assists of his career, and most importantly, he played in 79 of the 82 games, the most games he's ever played. For a while, it seemed like all of his past injury woes have vanished, and Wade has finally surpassed.
Well, this was after the Olympics too, by the way. That's the thing too. When players used to go to the Olympics with Kobe, they used to come back 10 times better than what they were. Like the 2009 season, think about it. LeBron stepped up. Wade was average. Wade was having his best career season. Melo went all the way to the Western Conference Finals against Kobe. You know what I'm saying? Kobe had arguably his best fucking season ever. Then you fast forward to the 2013 season. Shit, Melo got the Knicks up to the second seed. Wade and LeBron was going crazy in Miami that year. I think they went on like a 27-24 game win streak that year. Russ and KD was going crazy. James Harden was on his own in Houston. He was doing big things. And Kobe was just being Kobe. So, yeah.
Past his 2006 self, reaching a new level that nobody thought he could ever reach.
That was crazy.
Unfortunately, this version of the roster was very much a one-man team, as he had arguably the worst supporting cast of any superstar in the modern era. Being rewarded with the number 2 pick didn't do anything to help them in their goal to win another championship.
With the second pick in the 2008 NBA Draft, the Miami Heat select Michael Beasley from Kansas State University.
They never gave Michael Beasley a chance.
The Miami Heat used that pick to select Michael Beasley.
They never gave him a chance
at the time. Beasley was the most enticing prospect of the class, with a skill set that sparked intrigue among NBA scouts. A scouting report from 2008 stated that Beasley's length, quickness, jumping ability, shooting ability in a 6'9" frame made him the perfect player to complement any superstar. The question was whether or not he had the mental fortitude to tap into his gifts to their fullest potential.
They never gave him a chance.
In theory, he should have fit alongside very well with Dwayne Wade, as he could fill in so many gaps and have all the intangibles to support him. In reality, Beasley's head was never in the right place, and he often tried doing too much. The pressure overwhelmed him, and he only lasted 2 years in Miami before they gave up on him. Along with several other young players who looked very shaky, like Mario Chalmers and Daquan Cook, the entire 2008-9 season turned into a colossal carry job by Dwayne Wade. The Heat returned back to the playoffs. This is where they hit a wall. Despite the high hopes to make a deep playoff run, the Heat were met with an ever-familiar struggle, their over-reliance on Wade. In this series against Atlanta, it was the story of a lone superstar going up against a well-balanced team, a trend that Wade managed to embrace in the 2006 playoffs years ago. For comparison, here are his numbers from the 06 finals compared to his numbers in this 09 series against the Hawks. Seems familiar, right? Wade, once again, averaging like 30 a game, while the rest of his team does not pick up the slack. Except this time, Wade could not carry them hard enough, and his supporting cast is way worse than it used to be. The Heat lost in Game 7, and Wade showed his first signs of uncertainty with this organization. He made a statement towards the Heat front office that he needs more help, or else he'll look for opportunities elsewhere. At this point, despite Wade recovering and playing the best basketball we've ever seen him play, the Heat were trying to rebuild in the middle of his prime. It makes sense why he got frustrated. I mean, the dude is balling out and putting up insane numbers, yet the Heat have nothing to show for it but another first-round exit. This would happen again in the following season. The Miami Heat managed to win 47 games, the most they've won since 2006. But up against the Celtics in the first round, a team stacked with veteran superstars aiming for their own chance at another title, Wade's lack of support was even more apparent. Just look at his ridiculous performance in this series and compare it to the rest of his team. How in the world can anyone put up 33 a game on 56% shooting and your team loses in 5 games?
That's crazy.
That's just really sad. He scored more points than his next 3 highest scoring teammates combined. Nevertheless, this was the epitome of the post-championship era in Miami. It was all about D. Wade at the peak of his career, trying to carry a bunch of bums with no success. Perhaps the Heat's magical 2006 playoff run was just that, magical. They caught lightning in a bottle and all the stars aligned. From their older vets desperate and motivated to capture the title, along with an ambitious young Dwayne Wade. Truthfully, I don't think the Heat organization ever expected to repeat and win it again. Like I mentioned, it was eerily similar to the 2011 Mavs, where everyone knew this was their one year to win it, because the circumstances were perfect. The Western Conference was going through a transition period, just like how the Eastern Conference went through a transition period when the Heat captured their title. For example, entering the 06 playoffs, only 3 teams in the East won 50-plus games. And honestly, besides the Pistons, nobody was considered a legit contender to win it all. And by this time, even the Pistons were on the downswing. Yet the Celtics, Cavs, and Magic have yet to rise up. The East was transitioning into a new era, and this was the perfect time for a hungry Heat squad to win it all. Not too long after, when the Celtics created their Big Three in the summer of 08, there was no chance for Dwayne Wade to carry the Heat to the title again. He needed help, and the help came to him. In hindsight, the 2006 Heat have become a small blip in NBA history. When somebody asks you the question, what is the greatest championship roster of all time? I highly doubt anyone would say this Heat team. And over time, it's been overshadowed by LeBron's decision to join Miami, as he led them to 2 more championships with Wade in his shadow. History has not been kind to Wade. Not only was he viewed as a sidekick for the most recognizable era in Heat history, but his 06 finals performance was marred with controversy. Because of all this, Wade's image is perplexing. And you add this with the team losing in the first round over and over again until LeBron's arrival, there's no shortage of criticism for this era of the Miami Heat. Anyway, that's all folks. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. What are your thoughts on the 06 Miami Heat? And do you think they ever had a chance to repeat even without the injuries? That's all folks. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope
they should have made some roster changes before they went into that next season. They should have looked at some young pieces. They should have looked at some draft picks, and they should have really, really thought through like, hey, maybe we should start gearing up for the future. You know what I'm saying? They could have got rid of a couple of players on that team and focused more on some younger talent that really could have helped them going forward. That would have really helped benefit Wade and Shaq at that time. But it was the 2000s, so teams weren't really like, if you won it once, you run it back with the same crew. You don't really make that many changes unless some players decide that they want to go somewhere else to get their money. Then you try to replace them with the best replacement possible. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, this was the 2000s. This wasn't like... It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. That's all I'm going to say. But anyways, though, that's just going to about do it for this one, man. I will see you all in the next video. Till then, peace out.